Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to my channel. This is Blood Phantom 81. Long time no chat. So I basically wanted to make a video to go over equities, Bitcoin, and gold, and just talk about how I feel about things going forward. This is somewhat like a bonus video at the end of 2020, going to 2021. Couldn't really resist making like a big picture overview video like this. I also want to answer a subscriber question in this video, and that one is actually from Hidden Freedom Investing. So his comment was long-term goal and how you plan to reach 10 million and by what age. I'm not convinced you can reach 10 million on a W2 income without a business or something. I guess you could YOLO into some 300 or 3,000 calls or puts on Tesla. Hope you get lucky. Thanks, Alex. So I will be addressing that question as well towards the end of the video, so make sure you stick around for that. Like I said, it's somewhat like a bonus overview. So let's just jump right into how I feel about equities going forward. This is probably what's on everybody's mind. So what I'm looking at is actually NASDAQ futures. I think around the time I stopped making videos, we were in this consolidation range. And then after the election, there was a really huge pop, despite all the controversy of saying, if Trump wasn't going to fully accept the results of the election, then there was going to be some volatility. So much for that. Obviously, we didn't really look back after we broke out of this consolidation range, and it was definitely some level of resistance because we couldn't close above this area on the daily time frame. Got rejected at this candle right here, and then for about maybe 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 6 days, we were hitting up our heads against it. Finally, on the 7th, we actually closed above it and have just made a series of higher highs and higher lows. In fact, as I'm making this video, this is actually Thursday, December 31st, and it looks like we're sort of just bull flagging after a really nice day. After basically making a higher high over this range in the middle of December. And so this bull flag looks like it's coming to a conclusion. It looks like we want to head higher. And if we zoom into an hourly time frame, it becomes even more obvious. Sort of what the pattern is at the moment. For example, we had this descending area of resistance, acted as resistance a few times. Once we finally broke above it, acted as support when we got above it. In an uptrend, this is typically what you want to see as far as consolidation goes. This is pretty tame, actually, but obviously look how just prevalent this area of resistance is. Obviously, it is not a coincidence, in my humble opinion. Once we broke above this range, we didn't really look back, and what we're seeing right now is something pretty similar, actually. So once we break above this, I fully believe that we're going to head higher. And just zooming out big picture once again, obviously, like I mentioned, series of higher highs and higher lows. But keep in mind, this is a pretty big, excuse me, this is a pretty big area of resistance, or sorry, pretty big consolidation range. And so I don't expect us to conclude this that soon, considering how large it was. So I am expecting a pretty good year going forward. Obviously, we're going to have some really big red days as is usual. And so just zooming back in, let's just take a look at, let's say, the range between 2012 to 2015, for example, because what I'm looking at is the NASDAQ. We saw a really nasty decline that was about, 46-ish%. And actually, if I do peak to trough, it was about 50%, right? So not as large as the decline that we saw here, which is something closer to like 30 to 40 for the NASDAQ. But even after we bottom, we saw some pretty steep declines along the way, even though the overall trend was up. And I expect that to continue without, any exception. I think the market doesn't go up in a straight line, even considering how much we've already gone up so far. And so, yeah, we are going to see some volatility, but for the most part, I am continuing to be bullish on equities. Taking a look at gold next. So gold is probably a little bit more controversial. A lot of folks aren't really that into it, and that's totally okay. I'm actually bullish on gold as well. The fact that we made a higher high here in early August, I think, is a really good sign. And if we zoom into where we are right now, it sort of looks like we're hitting our heads up against a resistance area right here, which is totally healthy and normal, especially after a really big move. It almost looks like we had somewhat of a false breakdown right here from this range, as you guys can see, but I really like breaks of support like that because they create Pretty nice reversals since a lot of fear is created once an obvious area of support is broken, in my honest opinion. And so this continues to be a consolidation range. And yeah, I'm bullish on gold. I don't think there's that much more to say other than it's just like an uptrend with higher highs and higher lows. Moving on to Bitcoin. So Bitcoin, to no one's surprise, is an extremely fast moving, I don't know what to call it, I guess asset. Even that can be a stretch sometimes, but I actually increased my position around here once I saw that we were making this somewhat like an inverse head and shoulders. And this entire time period, we're using the 200-week moving average as support, which is this green line. I wasn't expecting a meteoric move like this. I was definitely expecting a really big move once we had broken out of this range, but certainly not to this extent. And so I kind of just forget that I own Bitcoin. I think that's probably the best way to approach this. And you know, we are going to see some pretty meteoric rises, as we're going to see some, you know, catastrophic drops, and that's okay. It's an extremely volatile asset in nature. And so, yeah, I'm going to be buying dips on Bitcoin going forward. I think a lot of institutions are starting to take it a little more seriously. Sentiment is starting to get a little bit more widespread on Bitcoin, and this seems like I don't know how to describe it, I would say, because I was going to say like an early sort of asset in the making, I guess. Still relatively young, so I do see more upside in Bitcoin going forward. But yeah, like I said, I'm just forgetting that I own it, and I plan on buying only if there are some pretty severe dips, and that's about that. Okay, and moving forward to the subscriber questions. So I had talked about, I told Dave actually personally, or maybe it was on one of his comments, that I plan on having about $10 million in net worth. And, you know, obviously he had a very good question, which is like, that's obviously a really big undertaking. So how do you plan on doing it? Um, so yeah, obviously that's a pretty lofty goal. There's no other way around it. This is sort of the plan. Feel free to laugh or you scoff at this. That's totally okay. But I'm just going to walk through the ideas. So if we go to my Robinhood account, we can see that I currently have about $266,000 here. I do have a couple other accounts that I don't really talk about too much. Maybe I will at some point, but for the most part, let's keep it about this. So I'm just going to walk you guys through these numbers. So basically, starting amount here at 260,000, I just input what I put on my main trading account. And so I'm currently about 25 years old. So the idea is to have about $10 million in net worth by the time I'm 40. And so that's 15 years from now. So the return rate, I'm putting it at 25%. Now this is extremely aggressive. Market returns are anywhere from 6 to 11%, whether you're counting inflation or not, or they're 12% if you're talking to Dave Ramsey. And this is also, this has to be after taxes because I do buy and sell equities quite frequently. And so yeah, 25% after taxes, of course, which is going to be pretty aggressive. Now, keep in mind with 25%, it doesn't mean that I have to always get at least 25%. It's just like an average compound annual growth rate. So there could be some years where I completely knock it out of the park. If I get another triple-digit return year, that would definitely boost or give me more of a cushion, I would say. And then additional contribution would be about $4,000 per month. That's something that I can do right now, actually. But I do plan on, there's actually some stuff going on right now in my life where I can't contribute that much, unfortunately. But this is what I can contribute now to my main portfolio. Like I mentioned, I do have a couple or a few other accounts. And so yeah, after about 15 years, when plugging in these numbers, I would have about $13 million in a balance. And so that is a little bit more than 10 million, but I'm sort of just keeping it here just to kind of have a little bit of a cushion. Again, I know it's very aggressive and you guys can laugh or scoff or whatever. I'm not going to take any offense to that because it is a really crazy goal. Of course, this also assumes that I'm not going to be buying a house at some point. So you know, I am factoring that in. Obviously, this is a little bit more than $10 million. And I do think that, well, I have some different ideas of how I want to go the real estate and house route that I'm not going to go into in this video. So I did account for that as well. But yeah, that's pretty much the plan. I wish, you know, I don't want to make this video super pseudo inspiration or whatever. That's just what I have right now, right? So I just want to keep it about the numbers for now. So anyway, I hope that answers your question, Dave, and thank you guys for all the support, and I'll see you guys in the next video.